Dave Free had a moment. He asked me. He said, he said, what are you getting from this? He says, is he paying you? And that was the most insulting thing and I had conversations with these men for a while. But the very idea that I was like a purchasable commodity was so disgusting. I reminded him, I said, I've been doing this for over 10 years.
While I do find the visuals of Dave Free running up to Akademiks and asking, like, yo, you're not glazing for free, right? Like, you're getting paid for this, to be pretty funny. And I know it's jokes over facts on the internet. I actually have somewhat of a take that takes up a little bit for Ak. Just hear me out. If you take away sort of like your disgust and hatred for Akademiks, he makes some fair points here. You can go watch the whole video. It's on the World Wide Webs. And the first thing I'm going to point out, right, is that I would have loved to hear Dave's, I would have loved for this to be an open conversation. I swear you not. But first thing I want to point out is the way Akademiks is telling the story speaks to something I've been noticing in kind of like hip hop lately, where they look at it as, the majority look at it as a side of good and evil, relative to a few things like capitalism, commercialism, the culture, etc. And this conversation, the way Ak tells it, makes Dave Free sound like that, right? In a way, that's how I'm interpreting this, right? And I think I've seen this, and the reason I'm saying this is because I've seen other commentators who are very pro-Dot. And the question I would present to Dave Free is, how would you feel if someone asks if they were getting paid by you too, right? But I'm sure Dave and any other Kendrick fan, you guys are going to be in the comments. You're going to say, no, Kendrick doesn't need to pay anyone to take. And that's because you've kind of visualized this as the side of good and evil. The next piece that goes along with that, which Akademiks does cover, he mentions that he's had people on that are not pro-Drake on his platform, etc., which is neither here nor there. But he says, hey, dog, listen, that's my favorite rapper. So I'm going to take up for him. Right. And I'm going to talk good about him. But that doesn't mean that I can't do this job that I have done. Right. I can't do this job that I do. And again, like I said, if you take the hatred away from it, you'll realize that Ak is right in that sense, because he also connects that with access. Right. And again, that goes back to how I'm thinking about Dave Free. Hope you guys are still following me here, where he says, hey, dog, I have access to someone like a Drake. I don't have access to you guys. Right. So that kind of stains the relationship a little bit. And you guys, and maybe Dave Free as well, is also going to say, well, why you need access to Kendrick. And this is what I'm saying. Right. It's the little thing. I mean, Kendrick is free to do whatever he wants to do. Dave Free's free to do whatever he wants to do. I tell you guys, they move like the CIA over there. You can't get diddly squat. You can't get diddly squat. Right. But that explains it a bit. So Dave Free shouldn't be, in my opinion, a bit too confused when someone like an Ak, or maybe, one out of every 10 journalists, or, hip hop persona or personalities will kind of just give a little bit of pushback. Do I think that also journalist personalities should punish an artist for not having access? No, but I could see how it would allow someone to misread something and or not always give you the benefit of the doubt when 8 out of the 10 people are giving you the benefit of the doubt, because they may not look at it as good and evil. In Ak's case, he is a big time Drake fan, so he's not going to look at it that way. Right. In a case like someone like me, I use Jay-Z as a big example. Being a Jay-Z fan has kind of rewired my brain and how I look at rappers. Do I think some people have a better reputation than the other? Yes, but when you watch your favorite rapper become a billionaire and you kind of just watch certain things, you start learning how to compartmentalize, and you're kind of like just scarred. I don't know how to explain it, right? I can hear you guys sometimes talk about culture conversations and things that maybe Kendrick isn't doing right or Drake, and I'll hear you, right? But that's that. Now, other prerogatives. For example, Ak is different here because they may feel like also misinformation, right? So that one is a point. I'm sure Dave had to bring that up. I would ding Ak for that, but then his pushback would be, y'all don't give me the right information like other people would, right? And then there's some other things. Like for me, an important thing is getting the facts right. I remember when these guys were battling, I must have made like 20 Defend Drake videos, right? Because of misinformation. So naturally, I'm not a misinformation guy. It was, again, I will never forget the lady with the samples said her uncle was a ghostwriter for Drake. I would never, you know what I mean? So some internet personalities won't make a video correcting that because to them, again, it's about good versus evil. That's just kind of how you look at it. And not everybody will look at it that way. All right. So that's my take on that. And y'all can do whatever y'all want to do with this one, man. I think if it wasn't accurate, y'all would be able to see the point of a little bit. But the jokes are still going to fly. You're glazing for free, brother.